Hello, a very good evening, and welcome to tonight's News Focus, coming to you live from our studios on the 10th Avenue Extension, Greater Estate. My name is El Samuels, and I'll be with you between now to 10 p.m. You can also join me via a WhatsApp and share your thought with me on 0537158638. Is the numbers you can share your thought with me. We'll bring you all the latest stories that has made headline, all the latest news stories in the country. Today, the 27th day of January 2026, the year of our Lord. And I welcome you to a very beautiful Tuesday evening where we'll look at all the stories that has made headline later today. And then you can also join us via WhatsApp with your thought on 0537158638 is the numbers. Now, for starters, and let's go it this way. The Ghana Immigration Service has begun a phase 2 of its 2025-26 recruitment exercise focusing on body selection and documentation. The Data Protection Commission is also enforcing strict compliance with Ghana's data protection laws, compliance, warning organizations to comply or face sanction. The Ghana Water Limited has temporarily shut down the Owabi water treatment plant. Government is tightening control on the importation of mining equipment and plans to overhaul Ghana's mining laws. Several high-profile criminal cases are set for court hearing on early 2026. The Bank of Ghana is prioritizing data transparency and policy discipline ahead of the IMF program review in April 2026. Ghana has donated engineering equipment to Jamaica Army to support reconstruction efforts. Ghana Football Association is working to raise a league standard to global standard. The former Ghana international Lai Kingston is ready to coach any of the Ghana national teams if the environment is conducive. And those are some of the brush up of the stories that has made headline this evening. Now let's go to some other major stories for the evening. And we go straight to look at the porters. To look at the porters of all the other major stories making headlines this evening. You can also share your thoughts with us on 0537158638 is the numbers. You can also share your thoughts with us, and let's get to hear you. The issues that has to do with fuel pricing, the issues that has to do turn around with government doing a lot of unthinkable stuff in the country. Now, let's look at some of the stories in the various portals where most people have turned their attention to look at the floor of the fuel pricing, and where the fuel price floor a safety net or a barrier. There's a question I keep asking any of you that is watching us: is it a safety net or it's a barrier? And let us know if it's a safety net or if it's a barrier. You share your thoughts with us on 0537158638 is the numbers. The policy think tank Imani Ghana Center for Policy and Education has cautioned the New Patriotic Party against what it described as an over-reliance on ceremonial peace park, arguing that strict adherence to law and institutional rules is the only sustainable path to credible internal democracy. I remember there's a lot of calls that has come in with regards to issue that has to do with the MPP primaries. The primaries has turned to a lot of people raising eyebrows on this matters that has come up. Road Minister confirmed the start of the Eja Amankrom Amanfo Bridge project. The Minister for Roads and Highways, Honorable Governor Kwame Agbodza, has announced that government is set to commence construction of it. The Adwaso AP Amanfo Bridge, a major infrastructure project expected to significantly improve connectivity and economic activities in the parts of the eastern region and beyond. The minister disclosed that upon returning to the office, he would sign the contract authorizing the contractor to begin the work on the bridge, making a critical step in implementation of one of Ghana's most ambitious transport projects. Away from the road, the World Bank drives universal health coverage, where a high-level delegation from the World Health Organization, WHO, led by its regional director for Africa, Professor Mohamed Janabi, has paid a courtesy call on Ghana's Minister for Health, Honorable Kwabena Minta Akando, to deepen collaboration on priority health intervention and reaffirm support for the country's ongoing health sector reforms. The engagement focused on strengthening Ghana's healthcare system, advancing efforts towards universal health coverage through sustainable partnership. During the discussion, Professor Janabi commended the government of Ghana for placing health at the center of its national development. He described recent policy decisions on bold and forward-looking, noting they reflect a strong political commitment to ensuring that all citizens have access to essential health service without financial hardship. In some MPP report, a new survey by Sanity Africa projects a decisive victory for former Assin Central Member of Parliament Kennedy Ohene Ejapon in the upcoming New Patriotic Party presidential primaries, placing him well ahead of his closest challenger, the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The findings suggest that Ejapon commands bold appeals across demographic groups, positioning him as a front-runner as the party prepares to elect a flag bearer for the 2028 general elections. Between December and January 2026, we conducted a survey assessing the voting intentions of delegates of the New Patriotic Party, the NPP, ahead of their upcoming presidential primary, and we used town hall meetings, stakeholder engagement, especially with the policymakers and change agents and the middle-driven change. And according to the organization, the exercise forms part of its broader mandate to analyze governance trends, test the feasibility of campaign promises, and forecast electoral outcomes through citizens-led democratic engagement. Based on the overall result, the former Assin Central Member of Parliament is projected to secure 52% of the vote, while the former Vice President and the party's 2024 presidential candidate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, follows with 40%. The remaining candidate trailed at a considerable distance, with Dr. Brian Champon pulling 7%, Dr. Yao Osei Aduchum 0.7%, Engineer Kobna AJ Ejapon 0.3%, according to Sanity Africa reports. Now let's do some other stories where the Ghana green energy transition must work for everyone. Every January 2026, the International Day of Clean Energy invites the world to reflect on how energy shapes our lives, economies, and environment. But for countries like Ghana, this day must be more than symbolic. It is a reminder that clean energy is not only about cutting emission or installing solar panels. It is about people, equity, and opportunities. Declared by the United Nations General Assembly under the Resolution A77327, the International Day of Clean Energy calls for just and inclusive transition that benefits both people and the planet. This call resonates strongly in Ghana, where energy remains a powerful lever for development, but also mirror reflecting persistent inequality. Ghana has made notable progress in expanding electricity access over the past 2 decades, yet access alone is not enough. The next phase of Ghana's energy journey must focus on how energy is produced and who it reaches and who benefits from it. Clean energy presents a real opportunity to tackle multiple challenges at once: climate action, energy security, and economic growth. With abundant solar resources, growing interest in the mini grids, and increasing policy attention on renewable, Ghana is well positioned to lead in West Africa, but the leadership will only be meaningful if the transition is inclusive and people-centered. According to the United Nations, about 666 million people worldwide still live without access to electricity, nearly 85% of them in sub-Saharan Africa, Whilst Ghana national electrification rate is relatively high, pockets of energy poverty persist, especially in the rural and inland community. An inclusive clean energy transition means expanding decentralized renewable energy solutions such as solar, mini-grids, and stand-alone systems to underserved areas. And these technologies are not just environmentally sound, they are practically tools for social justice. Reliable electricity enables clinics to function, schools to use digital tools, small businesses to grow, households to improve their quality of life. Clean energy, in this sense, becomes a dependable accelerator rather than a luxury. Energy sits at the heart of the dual challenge, advancing inclusive socio-economic development and protecting the planet. For Ghana, this challenge is inseparable from the future of the young population and economic empowerment of women. Now, if you turn your attention to other story, the National Democratic Congress, NDC Majority Caucus in Parliament has launched a strong rebuttal to recent criticism from the minority, accusing the New Patriotic Party of presiding over a period of severe economic decline, institutional breakdown whilst in government. In a statement signed by the majority leader and also the leader of government business, Honorable Mahama Ayariga, the caucus dismissed claims by the minority in an attempt to deflect attention from what it described as the NPP record of mismanagement and corruption. According to the majority, Ghana under NPP administration suffered a near collapse of its financial system with unprecedented depreciation of the Ghana cedi and soaring inflation that eroded household income. So there's many other stories coming to you live from our studios here on MBN TV. We're live from the 10th Avenue Extension, Greater Estate, Nungwa, Adogon. Now let's move away from the energy matters and go into other story, where the other story we're going to see the overloading fines on our road. Remember, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Agbodza, has wedded in one score, and this is an interesting piece of story coming from the Road Ministry, where the Road Minister has also, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwame Agbodza, has announced a significant increase in fines for vehicles overloading from 5,000 to 50,000. The move aims to curb the widespread of practice of axle overloading, which causes significant damage to the country's roads and possesses safety risk. The new policy also holds cargo owners jointly accountable for overloading offenses, and excess goods may be seized and auctioned, with the proceeds directed to the Road Maintenance Trust Fund. Government hopes this will deter overloading and promote road safety. The increased fine is part of efforts to protect Ghana's road infrastructure and enforce safety standards. The ministry plans to revamp operations at weighing stations and mobile checkpoints to enforce new regulation. Let's move to the Ministry of Roads and Highway and listen to the Minister, the Sector Minister, Governs Kwame Agbodza.
As I said, the ministry is in need of qualified staff to be able to supervise the works. I must say that the Finance Ministry has since issued warrant for the recruitment of new engineers who would be trained to be able to carry out supervision of these roads. The next thing I want to talk about is the axle load control reforms. If you have been watching the ministry, one of the biggest challenges we have is the axle load regime. And you will notice that whenever government changes, there's this tendency for people to be interested in managing axle load stations. My brothers and sisters, whatever money we collect in terms of penalties, and let me repeat, whatever you pay with respect to ASIL loading is not a fee. It's a penalty for wrongdoing. So our aim is to make sure that ASIL loading would, the accruals will be zero. If the accruals become zero, what it means is that people have stopped overloading. No amount of money we collect in terms of penalties on ASIL loading can ever be enough to repair the damages caused by trackers along on our roads. Those of you who have seen part of the road Agona Junction to Takwa, which was done less than a year ago, part of the reason that road is almost gone is partly because of ASIL loading, not entirely because of that. But many other roads across our country are in a very deplorable state. We intend to do something about this, and then we have recommended a stiffer penalty regime for those who would not abide by the rule and overload. So you will see that the fees and charges that will come up, we are intending to hike the penalty for overloading on our road from 5,000 Ghana cedi to 50,000. You shouldn't be worried. It's just like saying that if you steal, you'll be jailed for life. You will say that is high-handedness. But what about considering not stealing? Then you have no reason to spend even a day in prison. So we are increasing the penalties for overloading from 5,000 to 50,000. We hope that will be additional deterrent for people to make sure they work within the rules. As part of this, we also noticed that the overloading part of the overloading regime is complex. Some people go to Tema Port, load within the allowable tonnage. When they get out of the port, they park somewhere and then top up the goods. We are coming up with a regulation. Currently, the penalty is solely on the driver. We intend that the penalty be extended to the owner of the goods. So a portion of the good will be seized, auctioned, and the money put in the road maintenance trust fund. I am sure if you lose half of the goods as a result of overloading, the next time we all work within the limit. So these are all measures aimed at deterrent. No one, in fact, we wish that nobody overloads, nobody gets to pay anything, nobody loses his or her goods.
All right, so you have the Sector Minister governing Kwame Agbodza talking about the fine now moving from 5,000 to 50,000 when you overload. Now let's move to some other story this evening. Stories coming to you live from our studios here, where we're recapping all the top stories that has made headline throughout the day. Now let's go to some other stories that has made headline already, and then we get to touch base on it. The Chinese ambassador bid farewell to the president, John Dramani Mahama. The president today granted an audience with outgoing Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Tang Gifa. The president lauded Mr. Tang for strengthening the existing relations between Ghana and China during his tenure. Mr. Mahama also thanked the Chinese President Xi Jinping for his country's involvement in negotiating Ghana's debt restructuring and for providing significant support for Ghana's development. He cited $30 million grant for a flower market project, another $13 million allocated for the construction of a new science and technology university in Damongo. The president suggested a payment and a settlement system between the two countries. The ambassador Tong congratulated the president on his success chalk up in the first year of his tenure, especially in turning the fortunes of Ghana's economy. He called for strengthening cooperation between the two countries in industry, trade, mining, science, and technology. Away from that story, remember a touched base that has to do with the economy. Ghana's economy and the fight against Galamsey has been topics of debate. Dr. Tia Mahama's statement suggests that the previous Akufo-Addo government didn't fail in its effort to combat Galamsey. However, others argue that the government response was inadequate. The president, John Dramani Mahama, has acknowledged that tackling Galamsey will be a significant challenge requiring strong political will and sacrifices. He pledged to audit mining concession and provide alternative livelihood for those involved in Galamsey. The issue of Galamsey remains pressing with environmental damage and socio-economic impact. The current government approach has faced criticism, with some arguing that it is not doing enough to address the problem. Now let's take a listen to Dr. Tia Mahama.
Gold Board and the Minister of Finance a one-month moratorium to find a way of handling the issue, at least. But we think that there are more questions, and that's why we are calling for parliamentary inquiry. And the leader of the minority clearly stated that we've admitted a motion where we expect, where we want to call witnesses, where we want to call people to come and account as to how we can be trading in gold and be making losses. I understand if someone is trading in tomatoes, they are perishable goods. But for gold, whose prices increases every day, we don't expect it for you to be trading in that and be making losses. We also handle the fact that, look, if you are trading gold, it's okay. It's our natural resources. You should get value from it. But have you done issue about traceability? Are you encouraging Galamsey, where we are having traces of cyanide and mercury in our water bodies, where your media station and other journalists and other civil society organizations have been so much concerned about Galamsey and the reeling effect of Galamsey on our water bodies? Let me tell you that the data does not suggest that the MPP government failed in the fight against. MPP government did not eradicate Galamsey, admittedly. And at the point that we were leaving power, remnants of Galamsey was still happening in our country. But the spate, the audacity of the Galamseyers have been emboldened because of the complicit nature of the actors of the government. We and I know that Galamseyers are now emboldened under this government. You and I know that water bodies are now more polluted than they were some 2 years ago. You and I know that the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, actually banned small-scale mining for 2 years in this country, just to be sure that they can get some firm handle on the issue of Galamsey.
Now let's move away from some Galamsey story where Tia believed that the ex-war administration, that the best and current administration is not doing well with the Galamsey. We go to the corridors of the traditional authority where the Ghana Traditional Council, under the leadership of the government chair, King Taki Teiko Chulo II, has called for the inclusion of the Ga and Gadangwe within the national education system. He made this appeal during a courtesy call by the Minister of Education, Haruna Idrisu, to reinforce government resolve to strengthen the use of local language in education. King Takitaria Teiko Chulo II requested for Ga and Gadangwe be made mandatory subjects across all basis schools curriculum within the Greater Accra region, and also to ensure the preservation of the linguistic heritage of the capital. He also called for the inclusion of Ga language in the proposed artificial intelligence AI language development collaboration with Google alongside Tree Ever and Dubani. The government just stated the exclusion of the Ga language from the initiative was unacceptable for a language that is central to the identity of the capital. He proposed the drafting and the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Education and the Ghana State outlining a long-term policy direction for the teaching, promotion, and digital development of Ga and Gadangwe. The Traditional Council also expressed its readiness to collaborate with the Ghana Education Service, GES, to establish a legal and administrative framework that will guide the MOU and ensure accountability, continuity, and measurable progress. They ended with a commitment to continue the engagement and agree to open channels of communication to support the successful implementation of this commitment. And that's from the corridors of the traditional leaders of the states. The economic gains are made by the the country rooted in the past policies and current government yet to make an impact, according to Stephen Amwa. Will be joining Stephen Amwa on that. But before that, UTAG and KNUST back calls for the removal of GTEC Director General Deputy over incompetence. The University Teachers Association of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology branch of UTAG KNUST has thrown a support behind calls for the removal of the Director General and the Deputy Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC. In a statement issued today, Tuesday, January 27th, following an executive emergency meeting held a day earlier, UTAG and KNUST said it had resolved to align itself fully with the recent press release by the national leadership of UTAG demanding the removal of Professor Ahmed Jinapo Abdullahi, Director General of GTEC, and his deputy. The UTAG KNUST accused the GTEC leadership of creating excesses that have undermined harmony within the tertiary education system and urged the President John Dramani Mahama to remove the Director General and his deputy, describing them as incompetent and incapable of resetting the confidence in the Commission. And that brings us to our next line of action, where every city lost to corruption is a blow to the national development. Deputy Finance Minister tells the Deputy Finance Minister, Thomas Nyako Ampem, has warned that every city lost to corruption deprived Ghana school, roads, healthcare, and other critical social services, urging custom officers to recommitted to integrity and patriotism in the discharge of their duty. He was speaking at the commemoration of the International Custom Day 2026 in Accra. Mr. Ampem says revenue leakage through corruption and fraud directly undermine the national development and weaken the government's ability to meet the needs of citizens. The Deputy Finance Minister stressed that custom officers play a critical role not only in revenue mobilization but also safeguarding Ghana's economic future, noting vigilance at the country's borders, ports, and entry points is essential to national security and stability. Mr. Ampem noted that Ghana's Custom Division of Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, has over the years remained central to protecting the country from illicit drugs, small arms and ammunition, counterfeit pharmaceuticals, substandard goods, and also environmentally harmful products. Away from there, let's go straight away to bring you some other story where Ghana's minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markins, attributed the country's recent economic gains to external factors, including the International Monetary Fund IMF program, debt relief, and raising commodity experts rather than government competence. Speaking on Afenyo-Markins emphasized that the economic improvement are largely due to a $3 billion extended credit facility ECF program with the IMF, which requires the government to implement strict reforms, including cutting expenditure, restructuring debt, and boosting revenue mobilization. And said, we hereby submit the so-called gains were not born out of the government competence in managing our economy. Rather, the IMF program, debt relief, rising commodity export, reducing expenditure are the major reason for the upswing in Ghana's economy, not re-engineering of the economy, Afenyo-Markins stated. The minority leader questioned whether the government's social intervention programs have created opportunities for young Ghanaians, suggesting that the economic gains may not be a result of prudent management. Let's take a listen to Baumia versus Ken. We'll go to that later, but we're looking at the IMF debt relief driving economic against not government competence minority. Dr. Stephen Amwa's voice.
Contention here is quite clear or simple. We are talking about the performance of our republic economically. Last year, that's the 12 months. There is now a bone of contention whether the impact of the economic indicators on Ghanaians can be attributed to the performance of the present government or not. And I think it's so clear. First, what will solve this problem is the state budget that my brother Dr. Tuforsin presented on the floor of the House. I'm sure you guys can go for it, and then that will even deal with all these controversies, or this much controversy that we are all being confronted with. All the primary macro indicators that actually illustrate whether the economy is doing well came as a result of this present government or as a result of other external factors that they do not have control, even as a result of the performance of the previous government. It's clear. Of course, there was global economic crisis. Inflation went to about 54.1. We had, at a point, we were growing 0.4 or 5 thereabout, when the world was even going negative 3.3. But last quarter 2024, go and check the budget statement that they themselves presented. Inflation had come down from 54.1 to about 22.9. In fact, GDP was growing 5.6%, far higher and bigger than 2016 of about 3.4. In fact, gross international reserve they are talking about, 2016, they were growing 6.2. Even our provisional figures before they came to the House to even present what they had was over 7%. So if you look at all these indicators, then you can talk about the fact that the impact of these economic indicators, because we are actually practicing or experiencing defensive market economy, that means there's always a lag period for Ghanaians to feel the impact of economic enhancement or growth or change. You can even attribute to the fact that the previous government performance in terms of the economic restoration is what we have been enjoying, but not this government. This government is yet to embark on any serious discretionary economic policy for Ghanaians to appraise and say they are doing well or not. That makes it very difficult for me to talk about it. In the first place, any first year of any new government, it's very difficult for you to spend because of the parliamentary approval, one, because you do a lot of vetting. You vet projects that you're supposed to look at the construction sector. Most of your programs, flagship programs, need parliamentary approval and other structural and administrative configurations. So the government, not by reckless or any other thing, has not been spending. Let's face it. And two, I don't think we have come out of the IMF conditionalities and other restrictions. And this also puts some sort of restrictions on our spending when it comes to discretionary spending. So it's not that the government is embarking on any strategy not to spend. But I wanted to explain something to you. When you talk about the exchange rate that has really helped us, and my brothers are producing destructive interference of waste, and some people are also being confused and deceived in this country. Even between December and January, we had received about $1 billion into our account as a result of the fact that we domesticated the cocoa syndication. Hitherto, we're not doing that. In fact, I stand to be corrected the first time in the history of this country. I can be corrected. And then we had also had a very successful national election. So confidence of the international investors had been restored. America had engaged in tariffs or trade war with its giant partners from the Asia. So you remember all these factors actually begin to have impact on the dollar.
All right, so you have the ranking member of finance and also in the committee in Parliament, Dr. Steve Amoah, sharing his thoughts with us. Now we're turning our attention. Remember, the MPP primaries is coming in. There's a lot of survey coming in. The African Policy Lens APL has also tipped former Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to win Saturday's NPP race and in the first round emphatically. In its final survey released today, January 27, Dr. Bawumia is projected to raise by 61%, followed by Kennedy Ohene Japan 25.10%. Now, if you look at the methods that were used, the poll was conducted through a telephone interviews. African Policy Lens deployed a team of 12 trained field assistants who conducted a sample electorate to about 278 constituency. A total of 9,122 respondents were successfully reached and interviewed during the poll period. 0537158638 is the numbers. We're still looking at the survey by the APL. Following in is Dr. Brian Acheampong 5.20, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum 0.10, and Corp Engineer Kwabena Acheampong at 0.30. Those were the result from the APL. Also sending DS in for consideration. Don't forget that the Sanity African has projected Ken Ohene Acheampong. So we waiting to see exactly how this pendulum will sweep and who carries the day. The question I keep asking since morning is prophecy and data. Which one will you go for? Those are the things we want to know. Meanwhile, the executive director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, has revealed that Kennedy Acheampong's support among the New Patriotic Party delegates declined during the final stage of the party's internal campaign due to issues of messaging and conduct. Mr. Dankwa explained that the Global Info Analytics asks how delegates view all the 5 presidential aspirants, both favorable and unfavorable, noting that positive perception does not always translate into vote. And according to him, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia recorded the highest favorable rate at 93%, followed by Dr. Brian Acheampong at 86%, Kennedy Ohene Acheampong, Kwabena Acheampong at 85%, and Yao Educhum at 83%. He revealed that whilst Kennedy Acheampong's rating fluctuated during the campaign period, they dipped significantly in last week following the circulation of a video in which he made negative comment about Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. He stressed that, contrary to some perception, such conduct does not resonate well with the MPP delegates and ultimately influence voting patterns in the final stretch of the campaign. We're going to Musa Dankwa, Executive Director, has released the final polls for the MPP primaries showing Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia leading with 57% support, followed by Ken Ohene Acheampong 28, Dr. Brian Acheampong 13. The polls conducted between December 29, 2025 and January 23, 2026 surveyed 10,133 respondents across all 16 regions, 272 constituencies. However, the Ken Acheampong camp has slammed the polls as cooked, questioning its methodology and accuracy. Brian Acheampong has been gaining momentum with his support increasing from single digits in the late 2025 to 13 in the final poll. The MPP presidential primaries is scheduled for January 31st, 2026. How will the candidates campaigns respond to these polls results? Let's take a listen to Musa Dankwa. We're looking at Bawumia versus Ken versus Brian. Musa Dankwa shares final polls on MPP primaries. Let's take a listen to
48% of the vote, and then you have Kennedy Acheampong on 25% of the vote, and then you have Brian Acheampong on 6% of the vote, and then you have Dr. Yao Educhum 1%, Kwabena Acheampong near 0, and then 21% were not disclosing their voting intention for one reason or the other. So this is the headline poll, which means that the decision or the outcome of the 2026 primaries will depend on where the 21% move to based on what we have done. Now, we look at the regional numbers as well. When it comes to regional numbers, we've seen that Bawumia is leading in Ahafo, is leading in Ashanti region, leading in Bono East, but Kennedy is leading in Central region. Bawumia leads in Eastern region. He leads in Greater Accra. He leads in Northeast. He leads in Northern region. He leads in Oti. Savannah, he leads. Upper East, he leads. Upper West, he leads. Volta region, Kennedy is leading in Volta region. Western region, Bawumia is leading. And Western North, Bawumia is leading. So these are the regional numbers from the headline polls we just give to you. However, we did an approach where we tried to find from delegates who they thought their friends are voting for. So when we ask them, who do you think your friend delegates are voting for in this premise? 62% of them were telling us that they believe that their friends are voting for Bawumia. 32% of them believe their friends are voting for Kennedy Agyapong. 5% believe their friends are voting for Brian. And 1% believe that their friends are voting for Educhum. So you can see a bit of correlation between what they think their fellow friends are doing and the numbers we put out there in order of pecking. In particular, the number for Brian Achampong is largely the same, and that of Educhum too the same. In the case of Kennedy, he is doing about 7% or above what the headline poll numbers are saying, and Bawumia is doing a lot more higher than that. Now, with this insight and other information that we had, we have to make a prediction as to how we expect the race would end. And on that prediction, we are saying that Bawumia is likely going to be on 57%, plus or minus 3% margin of error. Kennedy is going to be on 28%, plus or minus 3% margin of error. Brian Achampong, which is quite high number here, is doing 13%, plus or minus 3% margin of error. And Dr. Educhum, 2%, plus or minus margin of error. And so is Kobna Agyapong. Now, what you will see is that Brian was on 13%, or is on 13%. In the headline poll, he is on 6%. So what has happened between the headline poll and the predictions? The predictions, remember, will use as much information as we have in the headline poll, together with other information that we have. What we've seen is a dramatic shift in the race, not from Bawumia, but from Kennedy to Brian Achampong. In the last few days, 4 days gone by, we have seen people who are moving from Kennedy to Brian Achampong. Now, the reason why you see Brian Achampong on the model is got to 13%.
So we had the poster Musa Dankwa sharing the final polls on the MPP primaries. 0537158638 is the numbers. You can share your thoughts with us. Which we need to train command and you bring a far news focus tonight about what live FE MBN TV 10th Avenue Extension. I walk back and there one quite be neti no your man me kajali because she back and there no neti no bobanye okay agbasani few on 0537158638 is the numbers. The phone line are duly activated. You can also call us. Our phone is activated. Call us now. Let's have a conversation and share your thoughts with us. What do you make of all the stories that we've checked out this evening? We've looked at various stories. We have looked at overloading, fine B increase to 50,000. Kwame Aguja warns drivers from 5,000 to 50,000. Ghana's economy, Akufo-Addo's government did not fail in the fight against Galamsey. Dr. Chia Mahama. You heard Dr. Stephen Amwa on the IMF debt relief driving economic gain, not government competence, according to the minority. And the last person. Hello, good evening. Can you turn the volume of your TV set down? We have a conversation on the phone.
Hello.
Let's have conversation on the phone, not on your TV. If you call us, please lower the volume on your TV set. The conversation is supposed to be on the phone, not on the TV. We need to have the conversation on your phone with you. Good evening, my brother. Your name, we're reaching us live from.
My name is called Kim Kaka inside Takwa.
All right, let's hear you from Takwa.
First of all, today has been a year. Honorable Madam Akufo-Addo was in lands and natural resources.
Okay.
And this honorable is a person, Mahama Excellency, Professor General Nobo. Very, very good. Why am I saying so? in terms of fighting illegal mining. It's very, very, very low cost. Everything shows. Now, if you have water bodies, the water is turning into blue. We have the water gas, we have the NAMOS, and we have the small scale mining restructuring and the community they are doing. So I urge Honorable Kofi Boah to be strong in fighting this menace. In fact, the Galamsey, they are very, very strong and powerful. But we cannot lead them to destroy our water bodies and our lands. That's what we have. So kudos to Honorable Kofi Boah, and thank you much, Excellency John Dramani Mahama, Agriculture, the visionary president of Ghana. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, my brother, all the way from Takwa joining us. You can also join us on 0537158638 is the numbers. You can also join us. Let's have a conversation. In tonight's News Focus, we'll bring all the latest stories, making headlines as we sojourn for God and for country. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Can you kindly turn the volume of your TV set down? Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening, my brother. Your name, where reaching us live from?
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, let's hear you.
Hello.
We are listening to you, sir. Please go ahead with your submission.
Yeah, my problem is I'm talking from Koforidua.
Okay.
I always heard about dollar depreciation, but I want to know if it affects our foodstuffs and everything. Still remains how it is. Cocoa prices is now in the listing. They can't buy, they can't pay. I don't know what is going on. Food prices are still minimum as it is. But people are still debating that the dollar is down. But it doesn't affect everybody in this country. So petrol too have been come down. Dollar festival is mainly fantasy, people enjoying that things have gone down.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll follow through with that as well. Thank you from all the way from Koforidua joining us. And you can also join us on 0537158638 is the numbers. Hello, good evening. So quite unfortunate we've lost him, but you can call back and then let's have conversation. 0537158638 is the numbers. You can also share your thoughts with us as we sojourn for God and country. In tonight's News Focus, we'll bring you all the latest stories that has made headlines across the country. We've touched base with all the various sectors of the economy that you've heard from, and then you can make your input. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, my brother. Your name, where reaching us live from? Okay, Amancia Central. Yes, sir. Okay, yeah, that's it. So, you can also join us 053-715-8638. 053-715-8638. Air numbers are also be to me at Shawadri and the Enumerate Shen Samoa Koso. Our main and afin so Yadani and Yakosha traditional issues are a far language AI called the corridors of the Gamanche and also Yakochuchi Sankomono and the Aboni sector minister education Haruna Idriso. We also went as far as getting to issue that has balls down with Galamsey. We went to the camps of the various. We looked at the info analytics survey that was made by Musa Dankwa. We brought you others that was done the Sanity Africa and then APL also bringing theirs in. Who wins the MPP flag bearership race comes Saturday, the 31st day of January 2025. Well, somebody sent a message, was asking as to if the depreciation of the cedi, how does it bring gains to them? The gains made on the Ghanaian cedi have both positive and negative effect on the economy. A positive is that the inflation control, a stronger cedi helps reduce inflation by making imports cheaper, which can lead to lower prices of goods and also services. It reduces debt burdens. Ghana's external debt is largely dominated by foreign currency, so a stronger cedi reduces the local currency cost of servicing these debts. Now, it also increases the investor confidence. A stable cedi attracts foreign investment, boosting economic growth and confidence in the economy. Now, this is a negative aspect of it. It reduces export competitiveness. A stronger cedi makes Ghanaian exports more expensive in foreign markets, especially reducing export revenue. Impact on local industry. Cheaper imports can threaten local industries, making them less competitive. And also it reduces remittances, where a stronger cedi means households receiving remittances from abroad get fewer cedis for the same amount of foreign currency. So the Bank of Ghana and government are working to balance these effects and sustain the cedi gains through fiscal discipline, improve revenue mobilization, and also structural reforms. This is what government so far is doing to maintain the balance between the positives and the negatives. The numbers you can call us on is 0537 158 is the numbers. Let's get to here. I've got some few more minutes. Sorry, Jumedi, sorry, NCB, I'm sorry, so Matishi, yeah, non mean chue, Matishini, Makweni Biko. Then the next set of program, which is the Zoe moment, also comes in. The moments will follow suit right after I'm done with the news focus, bringing you all the latest stories that is making headline. Now let's turn our attention and look at whilst we say a closure to you waiting for your call. 14 young Ghanaian men thought they were heading for Russia for legitimate work opportunity. Instead, they ended up on the front line of a foreign war they knew nothing about. The job advertisement appeared enough. Construction work in Russia, factory position with housing included, security roles, fostering respectable salary. For young Ghanaians struggling in a difficult economy, this posting on social media and WhatsApp groups seemed like lifeline. The issue escalated in early January 2026, where Ukrainian formally invited Ghana's foreign minister, Samuel Okudzeto Abrakwa, to Kiev for direct talks of a Ghanaian national captured whilst fighting for Russian forces. The Ukrainian foreign minister, Andrei Sybiha, announced on January 7 that Ghanaian diplomats will be granted access to the detainee who Ukraine described as Russian mercenaries captured in a combat zone. The invitation follows Ghana's official request for the citizens' return and marks a significant moment of accountability, physical evidence that young Ghanaians have not merely been recruited into Russian facility or supported roles, but have ended up bearing arms on active battlefields. For the government of Ghana, which had previously approached such report with caution, the detention of one of its citizens as a prisoner of war made the crisis undeniable real. As the Russia-Ukraine war nears its fourth year, the recruitment of foreign fighters has intensified on both sides, but Russian approach has been particularly predatory. So the young chaps going out to look for greener pastures have now turned into prisoners of war. We're still looking at issues across the shoulders, the borders of our country that has to do. APD 2026 Spotlight Women Economic Leadership across Africa. Bringing you some African stories before we take the founder and executive chairman of African Prosperity Network, Gabi Ochiri Dako, has revealed that this year's African Prosperity Dialogue, APD 2026, will dedicate a full afternoon to celebrating and empowering African women, featuring leaders from across the continent. Oktridakon says the Women Prosperity Dialogue will bring together African Union commissioners, political leaders, first ladies, and business executives to sit on the panel and also discuss the future of the African women in that. The African Union Commission, the political first ladies, and also including mining, banking, agriculture, and cocoa production. Participants will share insight on growing businesses, navigating cross-border trade, and expanding access to African single market. This year's theme, Empowering Women and Youth in the Single Market Innovative Collaborative Trade, reflect a deliberate effort to highlight the key drivers of African economy. The organizer says the focus on women and youth aims to encourage innovative cross-border collaboration and sustainable trade practices that benefit the continent at large. Gabriel Tridako noted that the event will provide a platform for women in diverse industries, from agriculture to cosmetics, to showcase the achievement, discuss challenges, and inspire the next generation of female entrepreneurs. The initiative also aligns with the broader African Union and African Continental Free Trade Area efforts to promote economic integration, entrepreneurship, and gender equality. So we're looking to see how this dialogue will turn out to be. We'll try to also bring you snipes of it. But finally, before I say bye-bye to you, the University of Ghana School of Law has been ranked among Africa's elite law schools, emerging as the best in Ghana and West Africa and the 6th overall on the continent in the 2026 Time Higher Education World University Ranking by the Subject for Law. Ranking released January 21st, 2026 places the University of Ghana in 251 in 300 global brands, making the UGSOL the only law school in Ghana to feature in the latest The Subject Ranking for Law. And according to the Times Higher Education, the 2026 law ranking assesses universities' key areas such as constitutional, administrative law, international law, commercial and corporate law, criminal law, and justice, as well as the legal theory and also the jurisprudence. In total, 425 universities from 53 countries and territories, were evaluated using 18 performance indicators drawn from a broader, the World University Ranking Framework. So we say congratulations to the University of Ghana on the subject of law being one of the best in West Africa. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of the News Focus. I want to say a big thank you to our viewers and also our contributors as we got interactive. For those of you who were able to pass through to call and share your thoughts with us, we say thank you. Those who couldn't, but try but couldn't go through, next time, I hope tomorrow you make the effort to get through early or activate the phone lines early for you to be able to join. And for our silent viewers, we love you all. We say God bless you all. When you stop to say a prayer, say one for me. My name is El Samuels. Do have a good night and say a prayer with every heart.